that conflict and war have a negative impact on women of all faiths across the regions, the nations, tribes, and religions.
The conflicts in Africa are based on tribal, ethnic, and religious differences of the people.
In the past, the religious leaders have been left on the side to go and pray for the dead and to pray for rain. But I believe that is not the role of the religious leaders alone.
When we have a conflict, when there's war, it does not only affect one community of believers, but it affects everybody.
God has created man in his image, and wherever we meet man, whether he's a Muslim, whether he's a Catholic, whether he's a Buddhist, he is the image of God.
Find ways of working together now.
If the major religions of the world don't learn to come together to resolve human problems, he said the camp of unbelievers will increase and God will join that camp.
Of the billion people living on less than $1 a day, over 70% live in Africa. Of the 800 million people going to bed hungry every night, over 50% live in Africa. Of the billion people without access to clean drinking water, over 60% live in Africa. Of the 2 billion people without access to proper sanitation, over 45% are found in Africa. Millions have been killed in several violent conflicts in the Sudan, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Somalia, Rwanda, Burundi, Angola, and elsewhere. Some of these conflicts continue today, taking many more lives and displacing millions. Countries previously thought to have achieved high levels of relative stability and peace, such as Kenya, Ivory Coast, Zimbabwe, and others, have recently been tested to their limits. Sadly, today, they all remain extremely fragile. At a time in history when pervasive violence threatens the humanity and religions are portrayed as a source of violent conflict and human suffering, religious communities face a stark choice: either to maintain the status quo, which leads to escalating violence, or the path of multi-religious cooperation for peace. The African Council of Religious Leaders chooses the second path, that of multi-religious cooperation for peace.
But you realize all over the continent that we have used less resources and achieved a lot more as comparable to a lot of resources used by secular institutions for very little achievement.
The truth is, African people are first and foremost religious people.
Religious leaders must come to know that the issues that affect humanity affect them because they are human beings, and at the same time, we serve the same humanity. There is no selection, anger, poverty, disease, do not select anybody.
I do believe that if we're going to eradicate poverty in Africa, if we're going to transform the conflicts in Africa, we must work together.
Our mission is deeply human, profoundly sacred, as it is for justice.
The African Council of Religious Leaders is empowering these religious leaders in doing these sacred works.
Each religion in each country has got the structures through which they pass their information down to the grassroots level. As a body, when we come together, I think we shall do a lot.
The religious leaders all across Africa must work together to confront violence and advance shared security.
Religious beliefs may differ. Nevertheless, in every village, in every community, on every continent in the world, most religious believers share some very fundamental moral convictions. The inviolable dignity of human life, the right to live free from oppression and extreme poverty, and the importance of caring for our earth. These shared moral beliefs provide a foundation for action in ACRL Religions for Peace.
If you study carefully the essence of all our religions, we are all looking for peace.
Peace must be a way of life, before it becomes a task. Peace building must be a way of life before we take it as a task. So it is imperative, therefore, that religious leaders must be able to work outside very narrow and parochial interests and begin to embrace much more broad nationalistic interests that are working towards the common good. So it is a challenge to religious leaders themselves to be able to open up and become effective bridge builders in our communities.
Currently, the Horn of Africa is in a state of conflict. Already there are initiatives that are being undertaken by the different religious groups, particularly by the Christians and the Muslims. The initiatives are going on, trying to address, to find how we can find peace in this region.
The women of faith in this continent have committed themselves and are committed to continue to confront violence and to advance shared security.
No time has ever been more urgent for multi-religious cooperation for peace. Principled cooperation can respectfully align the deep reservoirs of religiously motivated caring into common action. Confronting violence and advancing shared security can and must be done. Religious leaders are already addressing these challenges. They are in the front lines, pulling together. ACRL Religions for Peace facilitates the platform from which religious leaders from all faiths can, in a multi-stakeholder approach, address the challenges of conflicts and violence facing Africa.
Peace is possible, and we must work together to achieve it. Lack of peace has led to so much suffering on our continent, and this must stop.
Peace is possible.
And faith is a resource for people to work on the problems that they face on a day-to-day basis.
Peace has to be really cultured, and that is people have to be made to understand one another, to really know each other, and to appreciate one another, and to accept diversity.
Peace is possible. Africa, awaken to the change for peace.
It is essential at this time that religious communities or religious communions join hands to make living together among the African people possible.